once again. Welcome to the Sonata Learning Podcast, where we interview guests who are out there making a difference and empowering people through learning. With me today is Shaheen Tejani. For the past 20 years, Shaheen's worked with financial institutions in 36 countries around the issues of gender financial inclusion and also climate finance. So thanks for taking time out today, Shaheen, to talk.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And where are you calling from right now?
I'm calling from Lisbon.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm originally born in Africa, grew up in Canada, lived in France, where I began my development work about 20 years ago. And now I'm living in beautiful Lisbon, Portugal. It's usually sunny, but go figure, it's raining today.
Well, we'll talk about climate later. So there's two areas we work with financial institutions, and both banks and microfinance institutions who give small loans. But I guess the first one is gender inclusion. So while
Yes.
I'm sure many people in our audience are actively involved in this type of work and know exactly what you mean, if you had to give the really brief elevator pitch on what do we mean about gender inclusion in finance.
So remember, in the developing countries, women don't have a social safety net. So they need to generate income to feed their families, to send their kids to school, to provide them with better food for healthcare. And the majority of these women globally don't own assets. The land, the assets are in the name of the male members of their family, their husband, their brothers. In many cases in developing countries where there's been war, violence, refugee issues, the women are alone. They've lost their husbands. So they really need to generate income to survive. And they don't have assets, but they do have the ability to work. In many of these places, women are doing small handicraft businesses. They do 80% of the work on the farms. They don't own the farm, but they do 80% of the work on the farms. They generate income by selling things, by trading, by doing small services. Well, after, decades of work by the World Bank and the UN and all these development agencies in trying to get people in the developing world to generate income, they realize that the most powerful way to eliminate poverty is to empower women, and especially women with their own business. And so microfinance institutions globally, at least for the last 15 years, have been focusing on getting women financing so that they can generate income. Because when a woman earns income, it goes directly into her children in their health and education. So it's a very smart way. If you want to eliminate poverty, give women money to start businesses. And they are the most underserved market today because only 16% of women have financing.
But then when a woman, shows up to a bank or a microfinance institution looking for money, what happens?
In general, if the bank doesn't have a gender financial inclusion policy and product in place, the answer is no, because the majority of banks look for collateral, which means assets. What can you put down for me to give you this loan? Do you have formal employment? Women don't. Do you have assets like land? Women don't. Do you own buildings or a house? The house is usually in the man's name. Do you own any equipment? It's usually owned by the male members of the family. So it's zero collateral. The bank has to realize that your potential to work hard and pay back that loan is all you've got. And so that means a gender financial inclusion program in place that says, you know what? We're going to waive that collateral. We're going to give you a small amount of money, and we're going to give you training so you can use that money to pay back the loan. And in many cases, what they do is they start with a very small loan, and then the women get loan number two. So 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. Then they're into general banking, and they have a track record. So you've got billions of customers just waiting.
Great. And so I guess, and so you're a consultant, you consult on the overall strategy, but you also do the learning and the training of, people at all levels of a financial organization. on how to engage with women customers. What are the gaps? What's preventing them from just being, going out there and just providing financial services to all the women who are currently marginalized by the system? Is it an attitude thing, or is it a skill thing? What do you find is you have to work on usually?
It's two or three things. The first thing, unfortunately, is culture. All financial services, all banking globally has been developed for the male. So you need to train the loan officers so that they look at this woman as a customer in a different way. We call it, with the gender lens. And I make them wear these pink sunglasses to make them realize that, okay, it's a different customer. It's not the same man that you've been serving. It's now a woman and she has different needs. And the second thing is teaching them how to help build the capacity of women. So there's a lot of training involved. How to do a cash flow, how to do a budget, how to do a social media plan, how to market your business, how to talk to customers. And women sometimes feel that banks don't have confidence in them. So it's amazing, but almost 50% of women don't even go to a bank because they expect the answer to be no. And so it's a challenge.
And so on the side of the institutions, though, providing these loans, when you engage with them, when you find with the learning curve or the needs and distribution, how much of it is the frontline loan officer who's sitting across the desk from a female customer versus how much is it like the manager at the branch versus how much is it the people back at headquarters who are developing the products and policies? Like, what's the distribution of things people need to learn to engage
it starts with the head office, right? So it's a 50-50 partnership. But what tends to happen is that the donors and the people who provide the capital are saying, look, we want you to focus on women. So the European Reconstruction Bank, EBRD, works in, I think, over 20 countries now. They're the funders of, for example, this bank in Palestine. And they say, here's $15 million, lend it to women. So the head office says, fantastic, we'll make policies, maybe we'll do new products, we'll do marketing to women. But what happens is culturally, socially, at the bottom level where the loan officer is, they just don't think that the women can handle it. Because remember, it's not, they may not have run a business before, it may not be a formal business, the women don't have the collateral. And culturally, they feel like the women should stay, sort of around the family and do the small income generating businesses. But if you want to open a medical clinic and do radiology, you need a lot more money. And consistently, the women get much less money than they ask for. So they ask for 20,000. A male customer gets 20,000 because that's how much they need. The female customer gets 10. Simply because it's a female customer and they think, oh my God, this could be risky. Over time, though, that has changed. So I met a loan officer in Nablus in Palestine who said to me, in the past, I used to ask the women to come with their husband and the husband would co-sign the loan for them. He goes, now the women are so good at paying back. They're so diligent and they work so hard that when a man comes to me for a loan, I ask him to bring his wife. And I get the wife to co-sign, and the wife is the one who makes sure that that loan gets repaid.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I guess, so here you're talking about dealing with gender inclusion in finance in places like Afghanistan and Palestine. So if that weren't enough of a global challenge, you also do climate finance. So how's that compare?
The banks that were starting to get into financing green technologies and green solutions, which we all need to do, right? If you're going to build a house, buy a car, do anything substantive in business, you're going to talk to a bank. And so if we want to change the world and all use green technologies and green products, we're going to go to a bank. But what was happening is that the banks and also the funding agencies were talking about all this complicated technology to the loan officers, to the bankers who are saying, I don't want to know how a solar panel works. I just need to know the cash flow, right? And there's billions of funding, like COP 2023 is going on right now, billions of dollars of funding being allocated. But the big gap is the banks don't know how to lend it because people come and talk to them about technology and scare them. this is how drip irrigation works. This is how solar panels
Hmm.
work. This is how electric cars work. Who cares? They just need to know. They're bankers. They want to be able to know, can I bank it? What's the capital? What's the payback? What's the cash flow? And so what I do is I work with the banks, to help them organize what we call their green lending or their sustainable finance department and help these people forget about the technology. Because there's a tech guy who will come and certify the technology and tell you this is the right
Hmm.
thing. This is the right thing to put in the factory, which will save 50% energy. That's all the banker needs to know is, oh, savings of 50% energy. That means 50% cash is available for me to pay back my loan. And so what I do is help them simplify that process. And so I use my activity-based, simplified learning approach to help them, essentially cut the crap, forget about the technology, and just do what you do, which is you're a banker. And that's
Hmm.
what you want to find out is how much cash do they need? How much cash will they generate because they're using this better and renewable form of energy? Because really, no one's going to save the planet because we love the planet. We haven't done it yet, right? We're going to save the planet if it makes good financial sense for us, right? If we don't have to pay for electricity anymore and we can generate it by ourselves, we get that. Electric cars are cheaper than gas. Oh, we get that. This machine is going to save me 40% in energy costs. We get that. If you have solar water pumps, you save 25% energy. If you put in LED lights, you save 25% energy. In the developing countries where it's hot, if you put in a better air conditioner, you save between 30 to 40% in your energy costs.
Hmm.
That's wild, right? And so it makes a lot of sense. But when you talk about savings and cash flow, please don't tell me how it works. And that's what the bankers are doing is they're saying, we're so confused because people come and talk to us about all these green technologies, but how do we bank it? We're bankers. We want to know if we can bank it.
Got it. Yeah. So if a institution or an organization wanted to engage with you and around gender inclusion or climate finance, how could they get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, I'm at Shaheen at smartseed.net. It's interesting, I haven't done a marketing website because most of my referrals and business come from clients.
Hmm.
So it's usually word of mouth for me. Yeah, just go to LinkedIn and look up Shaheen Tejani, and you'll see I've worked on over 50 projects in the last 6, 7 years. And what I do is end to end. So I start with the project. I help the bank create their sustainable finance plan or their gender inclusion plan. Then I usually develop some capacity building, some workshops for the management, training for the front end. I deliver it only once and then I train trainers because I don't want people to have to hire me every single time. That's a waste of their money. And so what they do is we do use a cascading model. So I go in
Hmm.
there, I give them really good learning and development materials, sometimes working with people like Sonata for online learning because I don't know how to do e-learning. But going in there, training trainers and saying, here's the stuff. Now go and give it to everyone.
Fantastic. Cool. I
Yeah.
mean, I've always admired your definitely results, job, task oriented approach to learning, and the fact that you're willing to engage in like the sometimes messy real world aspects of creating change, especially when money's involved. So thank you
Yeah.
for all the work you do, and I'll let you get back to it. So thanks so much for stopping
Yeah.
by.
You're welcome. Can I say one more thing? I
Absolutely.
think the most important thing when it comes to humans and learning is don't tell them everything. Find out what do they need to know, when do they need to know it, and how are they going to use it to make their job easier. And all the other stuff that we try and throw at them, we try and throw people. I don't know if you're old enough. I'm old, so I remember the encyclopedias that we used
I'm
to
older
have.
than
The
I look.
Encyclopedia Britannica, 26 books. That's what we do. Is whenever we try and talk to people and build their capacity, we want to tell them everything. And no, what do they need to know? When do they need to know it? And what are they going to do to make their life easier? That's all they want to know. They don't want to know everything. So that's my message in terms of learning and development. Thank you very much.